Eleanor Blake sat by the window of her small house in Portland, Oregon, staring out at the garden her husband once tended with pride. At 73, she often found herself thinking about time, how quickly it had passed, and how every choice now seemed heavier than before. She remembered her last checkup when Dr. Collins had leaned forward, folded his hands, and told her in a voice both kind and stern, "Eleanor, there are things you simply cannot do anymore. They may seem small, but if you keep them up, they will shorten your life." At first, she thought he was exaggerating. She felt fine, or at least she thought she did. But that night, lying in bed, she replayed his words. What were the 5 things he was warning her about? The conversation echoed in her head, and slowly she realized he had given her more than medical advice. He had given her a story of survival. The first thing he told her never to do was ignore her medications. Eleanor had always been forgetful with her pills. Sometimes she skipped a dose of her blood pressure medicine because she hated swallowing tablets. Other times she doubled up when she remembered too late. Dr. Collins had looked her in the eye and said, "You may think missing one pill doesn't matter, but your body doesn't see it that way. Each skipped dose is a silent storm brewing inside you. One day, that storm will break." That very evening, Eleanor lined up her pill bottles on the kitchen counter and felt the weight of responsibility. She thought of her friend, Margaret, who had collapsed at church after forgetting her heart medication for days. Margaret never came back. Eleanor shivered, realizing how close she had been to making the same mistake. The second warning was about driving recklessly. Eleanor had always prided herself on her independence. She hated asking her daughter to drive her places, even when her vision blurred at night. "You've got slower reflexes now," Dr. Collins had told her. "One wrong move on the road could not only end your life, but someone else's too." She had protested, insisting she was still sharp, but deep down she remembered the red stoplight she had almost missed last winter. The horn from another car had jolted her awake. That memory haunted her. The next morning, she sat behind the wheel and whispered to herself, "I won't let pride kill me." Slowly, she began cutting down her trips, choosing to walk when she could, and asking her daughter for rides when she couldn't. The third warning was harder to accept. Never stop moving. Eleanor hated exercise. The idea of bending, stretching, or sweating made her groan. "But you must," Dr. Collins had insisted. "Your body is like a river. If it stops flowing, it stagnates. Muscles weaken, bones break, and the heart suffers. Even small walks can add years to your life." That night, she dreamed of her late husband, Robert, walking briskly through the park, his hand reaching out to hers. She woke up with tears on her cheeks. The following morning, she tied her sneakers and stepped outside. The air was crisp, the sun warm. At first, every step felt heavy, but then she imagined Robert walking beside her, encouraging her on. Day by day, those steps grew lighter, and so did her spirit. The fourth warning was one she had never thought about. Don't isolate yourself. Eleanor was a private person. She often told her daughter she didn't mind being alone. But Dr. Collins had said, loneliness is more dangerous than smoking. It eats away at the heart and the mind. You need connection. Without it, you wither. She remembered how quiet her evenings had become, with only the hum of the refrigerator for company. Some nights she turned on the TV just to hear another voice. After hearing the doctor's warning, she swallowed her pride and joined the senior book club at the library. At the first meeting, when she heard laughter echoing across the room, she felt something inside her awaken. It wasn't just about books, it was about belonging. The fifth and final warning was the most difficult to face. Don't cling to bad habits from youth. Eleanor had always loved her evening glass of wine. It relaxed her, reminded her of Robert, and soothed the loneliness. But Dr. Collins had been blunt. At 70, your body can't process alcohol the way it once did. What once calmed you now silently damages your liver and clouds your mind. Habits that felt harmless decades ago can kill you now. Eleanor stared at the half-empty bottle on her kitchen counter that night. She poured a small glass, lifted it to her lips, and then set it down. The silence in the room was deafening. She whispered, "Robert, if you were here, you'd tell me to stop." Her hand trembled as she poured the glass back into the bottle. Over the weeks that followed, Eleanor carried those 5 warnings like treasures, or perhaps like guardrails keeping her from a cliff's edge. Each time she reached for her pills, she remembered Margaret. Each time she refused to drive at night, she remembered the blaring horn that had once saved her life. Each step she took on her morning walks felt like a promise to Robert. Each laugh at the book club felt like sunlight on her skin. And each evening she resisted the wine, she felt a little stronger, a little freer. One afternoon, months later, her daughter stopped by unexpectedly. She found Eleanor sitting in the garden, trimming roses with steady hands. "Mom," she said in surprise, "you look different, happier." Eleanor smiled, her eyes soft but bright. "I suppose I finally started listening," she said. Her daughter tilted her head. "Listening to who?" "To life," Eleanor replied. "And to the doctor who reminded me that sometimes what you stop doing matters more than what you start." The two women sat together in the garden, surrounded by blooms. Eleanor felt the warmth of the sun on her shoulders, the steady rhythm of her heart, the calmness in her breath. She wasn't just surviving, she was living. And as she thought about those 5 forbidden habits, she realized something simple yet profound. Growing older wasn't about resisting time, but about respecting it. She reached over and took her daughter's hand. For the first time in years, Eleanor no longer feared the ticking clock. Instead, she welcomed each second, knowing she was walking a little slower, but a lot wiser, into the years still ahead. Would you like me to expand this story into a more dramatic narrative with multiple characters, like friends also struggling with the 5 habits, or keep it as a single character journey like Eleanor's?